They have really pulled it off on this. It's a joy to actually look closer and closer and see more and more of this detail. A big hello to you, so great to see you, and I hope you are well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard, and today, well, we've pressed the nuclear button. We're going to be taking a good close look at the all-new FNA-D wagons that have come through from Accurascale, and we're going to be seeing whether these are really glowing or whether they're just spent nuclear fuel. So enough of the puns, but I suppose you could consider these an extension of Accurascale's Powering Britain range of iconic wagons. Although you may initially think of coal wagons, and they've got those by the spadeful in terms of the HAA family of coal hopper wagons, also the HUO hopper wagons, and of course not forgetting the diminutive chaldron wagons. That's quite hard to get your teeth around, but we're not neglecting the nuclear option. Accurascale did bring us those amazing KUA multi-bogie wagons. They really were behemoths of the rail network. These are their smaller cousins and were built as a like-for-like replacement comparatively recently and have been used mostly on decommissioning work, such as the state of Britain's nuclear power station fleet. But it's really quite important work, and they still can be seen up and down the rail network, and they give you a great opportunity for prototypically quite short rakes. And certainly for the modern image modeler, this does give opportunity for quite an interesting mix of locomotives, with classes 57, 37, 66 and quite a few others having been seen on Flask workings. They really do provide a great opportunity, and with between 1 and 5 wagons generally being seen in the rakes, they are quite short, which is perfect for our model railway world. So come with me in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
I'd like to ask a huge favour before we continue with the review. Please do consider hitting the like button, sharing and subscribing if you've not already done so. You can also check us out over on Patreon, where we've got multiple tiers of rewards to allow you to help the channel grow and keep making the videos that you want to see. We've also got channel membership too, and a great range of merchandise which you'll find underneath the video. But onwards with the review. Are they glowing or are they just spent nuclear fuel? Let's take a good close look at the FNA-Ds from Accurascale. As part of their Powering Britain range, Accurascale have been bringing out some amazing coal wagons. But Powering Britain doesn't necessarily just mean coal, and part of Britain's power needs are met by nuclear power, and certainly previously there was a little bit more than there is now. But there's also a lot of other uses for nuclear, including military vessels, and for the traffic of moving the fuel rods and the spent nuclear waste around, BR has always needed some very specialist wagons. Over time, these have been upgraded, improved and replaced, and some of the more recent ones include these FNA-D new generation nuclear flask carriers. So when Accurascale announced it, we all knew that it was going to be something special. Very kindly, Accurascale have sent over one of the box sets in the teal livery with running numbers 9004 and 9025, and this is Twin Pack B with the catalogue number ACC1116 Twin Pack B. It features Accurascale's trademark very heavy duty box. Again, sign of a company that is very proud of their products if they actually put them in decent boxes like this. We just get a line drawing of the wagon on the front, and I think everything else that we want is inside. The first thing that strikes you is, of course, we get these very comprehensive history of the wagons, and of course in the UK, road transport doesn't really feature for the transportation of nuclear materials, and rail has been the obvious partner because of the additional security that it can provide, and the fact that these flasks can run unannounced in the timetable, and there's also plenty of scope for putting additional support in the train in the form of military police, for example, with some of the nuclear loads that are taken to refuel the nuclear submarine fleet. On the other side, we get the full exploded diagram as well, and I always love these. It shows just how much goes into assembly of these wagons. It's also interesting that we've got magnetic light, and these, it says magnetic light ones are available from Accurascale, and actually you may think, oh well, why isn't it included with the wagon? Well, you think how many of these different wagons that you might purchase, and you end up with a huge collection of these ones, which does seem very wasteful. So I actually prefer this method. And interestingly enough, whilst Accurascale did send out to me one of the magnetic wands, it does look identical to the one which came with the Rapido dynamometer coach. So there are plenty of options. You don't necessarily need to buy one if you've already got one of those magnetic wands. And I will also test out the Hornby one that comes with the 4 and 6 wheel coaches too, just to see what actually works. But we could be derailed, if you pardon the pun, because one of the things which has struck me is that we don't actually get batteries included in the package. With the tipplers that we had before, the PTAs, which were the replacement for the concert iron ore hoppers, we did get the batteries included, and that had a little rather delicate micro switch. So I'm quite pleased to see that the magnetic wand is being employed. No moving parts, so no risk of that getting damaged, but it would have been nice to get the batteries included too. What we do get is a huge assortment of buffer beam detail, again ready finished with correct colours on. They're not just bare black plastic. We've got the full works in there, and I actually like the fact that the couplings come separately, so you don't end up fishing around in a pack of bits just to get the couplings out. And it was always a little bugbear of mine, but it's nice to see that Accurascale have put a lot of thought into this. The packaging itself, let's just pull this out and just double check. No, definitely no batteries included. We pop out the blister off the top, and I'm just going to lift out both of the wagons, and they're actually very, very thoughtful with the provision of foam inserts to protect what look to be some quite delicate handrails. So I'm just going to put that there, and let's get the other one out. I'm going to keep all the packaging because I always do, and just make sure all of that is out. First impressions of the wagon are extremely good. The amount of printing on the side is faithful to the prototype, but really that for me is probably the most impressive standout that we've got here. Visually there is a lot going on, and the printing on these is incredibly sharp. So we've got everything from the overhead warning flash symbols on there. We've got some serial numbers, Max inclination 2.5%, presumably that's to stop the load from shifting. We're dealing here with radioactive materials, so we've also got the radioactive symbol on there, and there is just a huge amount of additional detail, and I absolutely love this. It's crisp, it's sharp, and I think the teal colour, which to you and my eyes is probably more of a greeny blue, a very dark greeny blue, really does set this off. And looking to the other side, we've got even more, and it's a joy to actually look closer and closer and see more and more of this detail. Looking on the bogie as well, we've got extra on there, and I can't even focus on that. It'd be interesting to see just what that is close up. The yellow axle box covers on there, and there's just a little bit of a paint chip, I think. Let me just double check with the other side. So yeah, unfortunately we do have a little bit of a paint chip just on there, and because they are bright yellow on a black background, that does show up. That is a little bit of a shame, but it is a fairly minor thing. There's a lot of extra separately applied detail on these, and certainly on the underside too, the detail keeps on coming with the brake rigging. There's a lot of fine detail there, and I do like the fact that it would appear we've got brake cylinders right down and in there, and we can actually see the framework of the wagon as well. Couplings go into these sockets, which actually have quite a nice positive central return spring, but do give a good deal of movement and aren't linked to the bogies themselves. There are some screws to remove these, so if you want some kind of alternative couplings which don't leave this necessary underneath, you can remove those, and that again is a really nice touch. Looking to the top side, I do like as well this kind of checker plate mesh that we've got going on the top side of the wagon. That is really quite nice relief detail molded into the wagon metal frame, and it does really look something special. The nuclear flask is contained in the center with its unique number 9025 on this one, and I'm just looking to see whether these slides, certainly when we reviewed those massive nuclear flask bogie wagons, the covers actually opened on those and really were quite impressive. But this does feel locked in place. But I'll be honest, it doesn't bother me. I found something like that to be a little bit of a gimmick, and most people would be unlikely to use it, so I prefer this robustness. The flask itself is finished in this sort of matte white. We've still got plenty of detailing on there, the overhead warning flashes, serial numbers, and I do like the ribbed effect of the metalwork down the sides and the locking clamps that hold this very firmly into place. The wheels are very, very free running, in fact exceptionally free running, and you can see down there that the pinpoints actually go into brass bearings for super smooth and reliable running. And we've also got, that is a really nice touch, just like the prototype, the ends of the axle spin. That is really nicely done, and that bodes well for the forthcoming Class 66 in the Accurascale range. So that does make me really quite interested to see just what they do with that model, because they have really pulled it off on this. That is superb, ultra reliable. That brass bearing ensures that we get positive location of the wheel, and it seems that everything is quite happily in place. That is for me a sort of sleeper standout of this model. I do like that. Buffers are to the correct profile with this very square profile with the arched top, very reminiscent of when you see a picture of Gordon in Thomas the Tank Engine. I think that the manufacturer of these may have modelled the buffers on Gordon. Just a joke there really, but certainly it's a very unusual shape captured well. These end railings are very, very robust. They feel like they're made of metal, and they're not flimsy at all. There's no real risk there, it feels, of them being broken or popping out, and certainly that is very important. Sprung on both ends, and the decoration really is superb on these. Looking to the next wagon, again, we've got that wealth of detail. And let's just double check that this hasn't been duplicated. And yeah, we've got 004. So there we go. The lettering on the side is in keeping with the wagon that it is on. There are some subtle detail differences, but this is true to the prototype. Again, we've got the 9004 on the top, and the numbering does match up with that. Certainly these are great wagons, and there on this 9004 we have the flashing tail light. So this would be the wagon at the end of the train, and these wagons do give a great opportunity to prototypically run some really quite unusual stock formations with one or even two of these Flask wagons, maybe even have some barrier wagons if necessary, and an assortment of appropriate rolling stock. You could actually justify multiple locomotives on one of these trains as to guard against failure. The trains were often run double-headed to ensure that even if one locomotive were to break down en route, there would be not any incident where a nuclear flask might be left somewhere where they hadn't planned for it. To gain access inside the wagon, we've got to first identify the non-clamp end of the container, grip carefully, and then just wiggle that free, and then just like the prototype we can gain access to the interior. On the battery powered one, we've got the circuit board down there with the twin holders for the CR927 type batteries. These are the button type batteries, and we'll come back to that one in a moment. Let's just look at the non-tail lamp version. Let's orientate it and just carefully take the hatch off, and you can see that on this one we've got the full representation of the floor, although we've got the screw holes where the circuit board would go, and that makes sense having the same moulding between the two wagons. So for a detail part that you're probably never really going to particularly look at, that is perfectly acceptable. Now let's just make sure we get these the right way round. Handily, the number is still there on the backboard, so I'm just going to clip that back in, and it's just positive pressure, and that does clip in quite nicely. Now I'm just going to have a quick rummage, and let's see what CR type batteries I can find. Well, we've got 1220s, they're not the right ones. And then I've got CR2032, always useful for computer motherboard batteries. Also CR2016, alternative computer motherboard batteries. They're not the right ones. So one moment whilst I go and see what I can find. But this is part of the problem, where if batteries are not included, it's memories of Christmas 1983, where the hot must-have toy came without batteries, and on Christmas Day, good luck to you finding batteries. But I'm just going to go and see what I can find. Well, unfortunately, I've drawn a blank. I have ransacked every drawer in the house. I found all manner of watch batteries, as well as the more common motherboard style batteries, and unfortunately CR927 is not one which I've been able to find. And indeed, I've been up to the supermarket and they didn't have that size. They pretty much had everything but. So I think it's possibly pot luck if you go to your supermarket as to whether they have the battery size in stock that you need. Unfortunately, I have double checked the box. I thought, well, has they drawn attention to this? But there isn't anything on the box to say batteries needed but not included. So A little bit disappointed on that. The RRP on these is £74.95, and it's a shame that they couldn't include a couple of batteries to get you going, but it is what it is. Fitting couplings to these wagons is remarkably simple. Just simply a case of getting the couplings that come supplied in the bag and just slipping them in. Make sure you've got it the right way up into the pockets, and it's a good firm fit, and just push until you get a click, and that is in there really nicely. Again, let's do the other end. It's quite a tight fit, but not impossible, and that means that you're not going to have any coupling issues with them sliding on out. The standard mounts also make sure that you can fit the couplings of your choice if you prefer. On the track, the wagons perform faultlessly, and actually those brass bearings that the axles are held in on the bogies really do give a spectacularly smooth performance, and I could imagine, whilst massively unprototypical, a huge long rake of these would not tax any locomotive in the slightest, such as the minimal rolling resistance. Around Weir Yard, around the twists and turns of the torture test track, they really were completely unfazed. They held onto that track like a limpet and were just not taxed at all. On the main lines too, they ran so smoothly. It was actually a joy to watch them go round. So we turn now to the scores, and first up is build quality, and actually these wagons are incredibly well put together, which is exactly what you would expect from Accurascale. All of the pieces that are fitted to it have stayed put, and it's withstood all of my handling. I really like the thoughtful use of different materials, and there's a lot of low down weight in this die cast chassis, which really does give a quality finish. The quality of these end handrails too, they've really put a lot of thought into the best material to make them robust but scale thickness, and all in all we've got a great package with nothing that I could point a finger at and say that is wrong, so I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. On running quality, it has to be said that the brass bearing cups that are fitted in there really do give a super smooth running quality, and there's enough lateral movement in the bogies to make sure that this really does cling like a limpet to your track. I also really like these spinning axle box ends, and this is as per the prototype, and something other than a recent model of the Class 66 I've not seen done, and certainly this is robust. There's no sign of them coming loose or free, and it is remarkably well done. The wagons took in all of the point work on Weir Yard and the torture test track, and really were completely unfazed by anything that I threw at them. So again, with nothing to point fault at, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. On DCC fitting and innovation, well, DCC fitting isn't applicable, but on innovation, it's nice that they've taken on board the criticism that was levelled on the PTA wagons with that tiny micro switch, which was very prone to potentially getting damaged, and moved to a system with a magnetic wand to activate the tail light. The thing which I find to be a little bit of a retrograde step is that there's no batteries in the box and nothing on the outside of the box to tell you that you need these batteries or what the ones you're looking for are. I had great difficulty tracking these down. In fact, I had to admit defeat, having found so many other different types of batteries both around the house and in the local supermarket, but I was not able to find that CR927, and as such was not able to make use of the flashing tail light. It's a huge shame, and on an RRP of £74.95, it really is unfortunate that they weren't able to include a pair of batteries in the box with them. Now, I understand that if they were exporting these to buyers overseas, there may be restrictions in including batteries, but certainly if you can post an iPhone with a battery in it, or an Android phone, or a watch even, which would employ a very similar type of battery, I do wonder why they couldn't have been included, at the very least, into the box for any that are sold in the UK, and it is a shame that we weren't able to use that function. So as a result of that, I'm giving it a 6.8. When it comes to accuracy and quality of finish, well, accuracy, it's second to none, as you would expect from Accurascale. And quality of finish, well, let me just let this decoration speak for itself. That is an incredible feat of printing. And really, I just can't see anything fuzzy or out of place. There's so much there. It's all true to accuracy, and it is so well realized. I really couldn't give this model anything less than a 10 out of 10. On value for money, these packs come with 2 wagons, each with a different running number, and there are around 5 different packs that are available, although do hurry, because some of them are already sold out at Accurascale, and they are proving to be a very, very popular set of wagons. For $74.95 you get 2 high quality wagons, and remember, that's enough to run most rakes needed on your layout. All in all, in this day and age, for something with a full die-cast chassis and this amazing level of printing and detail, this goes together to give it a 9.1 for value for money. And our final score is a very respectable 45.9. I can well recommend these wagons. They are certainly some of the most superb printing that I have seen on a model wagon in 00 gauge. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this review and found it informative, and don't forget that we've got that link down below to take you to the Accurascale website, where you can pick up your own version of these wagons, or indeed any of the other versions that Accurascale have available in those twin packs. But don't forget as well, search out those CR927 batteries before you purchase, because you're going to need them if you want that flashing tail lamp. But it has to be said, it's not the be-all and end-all. But I would love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts on these wagons, please leave them in the comments section down below. What were your views on these new Powering Britain nuclear wagons from Accurascale? Do they meet up to the standards we've come to expect from Accurascale? Or was there anything that you thought wasn't really quite up to scratch? Please do leave a comment down below, and it's a great way of sharing your information with your fellow modelers. And also don't forget that you can head on over to Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see, with a number of different tiers of great rewards. Or you could become a channel member as well. It's all a great way to help keep this channel running. But until next time, you take great care of yourself. Please like, share and subscribe. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world, with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.